Okay.
Yeah,
It's a long,
sure.
you can see how.
Yeah, there's quite a bit. But what I'm seeing is wonderful. Yeah, it's really great. It's really great. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Council, 7 p.m. We'll begin with the pledge by Councilwoman Petty and then a prayer by Councilman Pope.
Please stand and repeat with me. I pledge allegiance to the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation.
More coming in, James. Okay. Light on the room. Our most gracious Father in heaven, we thank you for this beautiful day and for the opportunity we have to meet this evening, City Council, Mayor, citizens. We're grateful for this wonderful community in which we live and for all the many wonderful people and support services and staff and others that help to provide the necessities that we have here. We pray for thy guidance tonight in all of our discussions, that we might be able to understand each other and be able to see clearly the best directions to take, be able to continue to serve and keep this community a wonderful place to live. We're so grateful for this country and pray for it, that it can also maintain the freedoms and peace that we so much desire. And we pray for these things now in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Thank you. First item of the agenda this evening will be a public comment. If you have some comments that you want to make, we keep them to 3 minutes. We'd ask you to come up to the microphone and speak in English and address, and we'll learn from the council will not respect you. For public comment. You got it? Wow.
Rob Osborne, 2317 View Drive, South Weber. Last week I was mighty surprised to see what breezed into my mailbox, and was a little disappointed to think the city is spending a lot of money on some copying and paper, when quite frankly the letter in the water bill was sufficient for me for getting information. This is just an expense I don't think we need. And so I just wanted to voice my opinion about that. I am okay with the information that comes from the water bill, but this is a nice flyer, beautifully put together, but I know it's cost some cash. And then we have to resend it too. So it just doesn't come with a water bill. That's the way laughing at me, I know. But anyway, beautiful piece, but I don't think we need it as a city. I'd like to see us saving some money on that. So I'd stay for the water part, but I gotta go home and get dinner in the oven. So thank you.
Thank
you,
Rob.
Okay, we'll move on. Go ahead.
My daughter never wants me to talk, but I am when I'm here. James Durant, 7478 South, 1980 East. I just want to say thank you for all the efforts for Great South Weber Days. It was a family tradition we've loved for 20 years. We've been here, and we tell people when they move in, you got to go to the South Weber Days. It's the best part. So thank you for that. And I just appreciate any efforts you're doing on mitigating the sand and the dust. I know that's something that I've been here and talked about before and on their staff. So whatever you're doing, I read in the newsletter the efforts the mayor mentioned. So thank you. Keep those up. Last night I cleaned out my gutters, and like 5 buckets later and 2 garbage cans. It weighed so much I had to spread it out with the another can, but, so thank you for everything and your service.
Thank you.
Thanks, James.
Appreciate it. Anyone else? Okay, our next item is presentation, for the 22-23 city council. Andy's been handling it, so we can sign off the council meeting committee.
Thank you, Mayor. Well, this is super exciting. First part of September means we get to swear in a new group of our youth city council, and it is so much fun, and we love to have the youth come help us. So it seems really intimidating to come up in front of everybody, but that's what we're going to ask you, and it's really not that bad. So we want to introduce all of our youth first. So we have Summer Gee, Olivia Packer, London Nicholas, Lexi Alberts, Hallie Shoup, Reese Coford, Allison Durant, and Susanna Johnson. So if you are here and I just read your name, come on up and stand right in front, and we will have our city recorder administer the oath of office. And parents, feel free to take photos. We'll do one big one at the end too. And kids, you can look at your mom and dad. You don't have to look at Lisa. You just have to repeat after her.
Raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name. I, do solemnly swear that I will support, obey, and defend the Constitution of the United States, and the Constitution of the State of Utah, and that I will discharge the duties of my office with fidelity.
Yay! Take a photo of me, Haley, with the new YCC members. If you guys will stay tight for 1 second. And we do have another advisor, McKenna was there, but she was not able to attend our Friday, and she'll be interviewed. Okay, and we have one YCC missing. So Susanna will. Not one, yes. Okay, so we'll swear in Susanna and this is next time.
Did you hold us with that? I don't know why. Okay, thank you. Oh,
I'm sorry, I forgot to say that because this is an official swearing in, you have a formal oath of office to sign, and Lisa will help you with that in there. And then you're welcome to stay or go, however you need to. Thanks, girls.
Thank you, girls. Looks like we're gonna have a talk. Share. Appreciate it. Appreciate the parents' support. Our next item then is our consent agenda. Consisting of July budget action. Looking for a motion to approve that agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Aye.
Your next item on the tonight is a public hearing for the water conservation plan. Need a motion to open the public hearing.
So moved.
Seconded.
In favor?
Aye. Aye.
They are public hearing is open. Anyone has any comments? I am going to be. I read it. Okay, then. See, no comments on the public hearing. Entertaining off, motion to close the public hearing.
So moved. Second.
Favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, our next thing is resolution 23-43, Ogden Water Conservation Plan. Any discussion on that? Or someone ready to make a motion on that?
I do have one question. So in the plan itself, it lists the goals that we're striving for. And there were 2 or 3 of them that were talking about more infrastructure, things like changing the diameter of the pipe, upgrading some of the piping that's going through. How is that combined with the conservation?
So there's a section that evaluates how we were doing on the goals previously set in 2017. I think that might be where you're referring. And what's reported in there is the capital facilities plan, capital projects.
Yeah.
Then the lettering in red states what was done. So kind of reporting back on what was done.
Okay.
As we, maybe how it relates to water conservation is, as new pipes replace old pipes, then leaky systems, things like that, make sure that we're using the water instead of losing it.
Okay. Because yeah, we've got number 10, upsize Cottonwood Drive to 8-inch line. And we're looking 2024, 25 for that, but it's already completed. So yeah, that was the only question is, because I didn't understand how that's part of this same conservation.
I guess
part.
it increases the efficiency of the system is a general comment.
Okay.
Do you want to add something, Dave?
Yeah, the only thing I'd add is when it comes to city conservation efforts, having a leaky system does more than a number of residential homeowners conserving water. And so we want to be very good about making sure that the system is operating well. And that's part of it, right? The capital facilities plan is part of the general water conservation because of the efficiency of the system. So that's the tie.
Okay, because it didn't say anything was leaking or anything. It just said that it was changing the diameter. So anyways, it was more curiosity and trying to understand it. So thank you.
Yes, and not every single project that was done was addressing water conservation, but in general, we're trying to create a more efficient system.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
Any other comments? Motion then,
Mayor, I'll move that we approve resolution 22-43 of the Water Conservation Plan.
I second that.
okay, we'll take a roll call vote, starting with Councilman Albertson. All right.
Aye.
Aye.
Both. So much carried. Okay. Our next item is resolution 22-45, additional adding special event fees to the consolidated fee schedule. Comments from the council on that?
Just a couple questions on the cost structure. Is that similar to other communities, or we just kind of eyeballed it?
There was not eyeballing, but it's not necessarily similar to other communities because it's based on actual cost. The city just looked at requirements based on size of event, mass gathering type of requirements, things like that. And based on that, what city services are required and how much it costs to provide those services for that period of time. And so that's how that was analyzed. It wasn't necessarily done by comparison of other cities' event permitting.
You know how Trevor tells you that you're giving us something to hate?
Yeah,
I kind of hate this.
sure.
So I'm just a little confused. So the Public Works is 75 up to 300 participants. So that's 300 and under, or 300 and over, or I guess that's 300 to 500. So what if you only have, like, there's no minimum? So if you only have 30 people, you still need to do this, or how does this work?
No, when a special event permit is required, then these would come into play, but not every event requires a special event permit, right? If a
Okay.
family gathering is going to the park and you reserve the pavilion, right? That doesn't necessarily kick into special event permit requirements. It's when a permit is required and when city services are required, because not every event requires city services. This creates the framework for when we apply these charges, but it doesn't mean that every event under 300 would have that charge.
Okay, so what is considered a special event? Like, what's our definition of that?
That's something that we probably should clarify. No, honestly, there's not some hard, fast deadline or not deadline, definition. Yeah, there are mass gathering requirements and whatnot from the health department that we've relied on in the past. But I think that's something we should talk about and decide what we want to do, because there are so many scenarios, right? What if a neighborhood wanted to get together and throw a block party? Are we now going to say that they need a special event permit? Right? There are
what
families
makes
that will
me nervous
gather, and
about
so
this.
we want to. There's kind of a case by case understanding of the nature and the purpose of the event, but trying to fit that within some of those larger requirements that as a city we need to be looking out for as well. So yes, I think there's space here to have that conversation. Tonight's agenda item was simply to document what current practice is, recognizing that it wasn't in the in the consolidated fee schedule. And so it was to put that down on paper. But it does highlight additional conversation that would need to be had. I think additional definitions that could give clarity and direction for residents.
Yeah, I agree with that. That's what kind of makes me concerned here. You know, we had our PR meeting just yesterday where we were thinking of many different events to bring out more community, and then there's this that almost seems to me to dissuade it in a form. I get nervous of it being. I understand that each circumstance is different, but it almost feels a little subjective. Also, like certain things are going to require a permit where others are not. And my other question to that is, are we as a city going to follow our own rules as far as our events and our community events when we are over the 300 or whatnot? Are we going to follow these same standards that are needed? So I guess I'm having a hard time approving this when I don't know what a special event is.
Sure. The short answer is that the special event permitting process is one that was lacking in city code. And so we're trying to clarify that. And this is one of the pieces of that puzzle to provide that clarity and that picture. The definition of when it applies and when it doesn't apply is another important piece of that, which is a little bit larger conversation, I think, than what the specifics are. Because these numbers are generated based on event size, and the idea of, do we go through our own process? The short answer on that is yes. We intend to, when we hold a city event, go through the permitting process. The permitting process is almost a planning document in essence, that it makes sure you're talking with public safety and you're having those conversations about sanitation and things like that. It doesn't mean that there's additional city services that are required every time you have an event, but it does make sure that the fire department has a chance to look at it and say, by state statute or by health gathering, requirements, you need to have coverage at your event or things like that. It creates a framework for conversation about the event before a permit is issued. And so I totally see the idea of, where's the additional information? Where's the additional framework? Again, it was, we just need to document the fees that we charge with an attempt to then add more clarity to that. And then as staff, we had the same conversation. So we need to provide more for the community to understand how and when these are applied. And if you want to wait to do that, you have every right to do that. Or if you want to put them on paper as they stand, and as we go through that evaluation process, we want to adjust those based on what we come up with, through that evaluation, that's fine too.
Okay.
So I had two other questions. You kind of touched on one. Who determines, or how is it determined that you need a sheriff there, or you need, certain ambulance, obviously fireworks and things like that. And so I hope that would be spelled out, because somebody comes in and says, oh, I don't need a sheriff, oh, I don't need the fire department. You know, who's gonna define that, whether they need it or not? And then the other part, it's per hour. Is that per hour of their event? Because you got cleanup afterwards, and they need to pay up front most likely, and if it takes 2 extra hours to clean up after an event. Anyway, how do we define the per hour? Is it just the per hour of the activity? If it's a 3-hour activity, then that's all we're charging? Or do we take into account other time beyond that?
We do take into account other time, and we consider it, but ultimately it's based on how long that service needs to be there. So if it's cleanup time and everybody's gone except for those that are hosting and cleaning up, then you probably aren't counting fire time, right? They probably left when the mass left, and those types of things.
And there's, to the earlier question, is there a very specific detail already in the state when you need a sheriff, when you need the fire department or
There,
ambulance?
yes. I don't know exactly what those numbers are, but as I've talked with our public safety staff, they don't just decide or pick, you know, those numbers. They're outlined for them.
So it might be good to have in the text, you know, reference to whatever it is, so somebody doesn't come in and it's a argument of, you know, I don't think it's needed. Well, here's the statute that says it is needed.
Yeah. The application form for a special event permit has a lot of that type of information on
Okay.
it, but not in the consolidated fee schedule. So yeah, there's missing pieces, I think, to the puzzle here.
Thank you.
So was the train ride, the October, the train club is doing, is that a special event? Did they do the application for this? Or is,
They have not done that yet.
'cause
They're
they sometimes get a lot of.
sure, they
people,
sometimes get a lot of people.
2,000 people.
Yeah, so again, to the idea of when it's a city event versus a outside event, there's been a question in terms of the train club specifically of how that works, if that is a private event that is on city property and that's how it's being approached, or if it's like the public run days that the city is requesting that they do that on behalf of the citizens. So that is kind of a new scenario for this process. Again, a piece of the puzzle that needs to be figured out.
Well, and this all came to my attention when I found out about the charity last weekend, I believe it was, that, or maybe it was 2, and that the amount that they were charged. And I was quite shocked at it. And that was the first event that they've done. So to them, it was all kind of new too. But yeah, I mean, when we're talking about just off of these numbers, $230 an hour if you're under 300. So if you go higher than that, then yeah, you're up into, you know, $800 an hour with country fair days, with any of the events that they have at each one of these different venues. Yeah, it just, to me, I could almost see 300 and below is free, because we've got people that are already part of their taxes paying for our parks. And as long as we're not going to go over the capacity of the park, I don't see, even when we look at fire and ambulance, I mean, if there's a state requirement, that's different, but I still think that, I mean, one should be able to handle it, because they're already planning on covering that plus the capacity of what the park normally is. And I saw that in other codes as I was looking around, where some of them just said those were some of the requirements, that if it's going to have to go over this normal capacity or the approved capacity, then it starts going into a special event, and then they start charging for the extra resources coming in. That being said, I also do understand where it's not necessarily the citizens' bill to pick up if a special event wants to come in and have one of our parks, and now the city has to pick up for the extra facility people down there that are doing public works and taking care of the garbages and switching them out, you know, every 20, 30 minutes. So I, for one, I'm not, while I understand putting in the numbers and the cost and everything for it, to me, I think there really needs to be a definition at the beginning of who and what this is going to apply for. whether this goes for charities, whether this goes for our own, because the Country Fair Days, we love it as a city and we donate all kinds of time and I believe some money to it as well. But at the same time, they're not part of the city, so they would have to pay that. And that's more money total than they would probably be able to make. I like an idea where I've seen in other places where they'll rent out, say like the venue, and then do you need the extra park? Do you need extra services? And then you can, kind of add on those extra services if you need them, like additional power or the lights to stay on past a certain time, or you want use of the pickleball courts while everybody's here, those kind of things. So I would like to see that definition really worked out first beforehand, because where it's just a blanket, if it's under 300 and we don't have a clearly defined path of what is the definition of a special event, who is it and what. Right now, it's just a giant catch-all and everybody has to do it or we have to ignore it. And I don't think that's a good way to put any laws into action. So that's just my.
So maybe I looked at this different than everybody else, which wouldn't be the first time. This is just a fee schedule. It's not, we're not defining uses and all of that stuff. If a public works person is required at an event right now, we have no way of charging them anything. If La Roca has a great big event and we need to send 2 sheriffs down there, we have no fee schedule for that. None of these have to be used. It's up to the staff. The staff could say all of this is free based on our current special event requirements. They don't have to say we're going to send the public works. Am I stating this incorrectly?
No, I think you're generally correct.
Yeah, so if we don't send a public works guy there, we're not charging them anything. If we don't send a public safety officer there, we're not charging them anything. If we don't send fire and EMS there, we're not charging them anything. This just gives us an avenue to charge it. That's all a fee schedule is. And so the definition of what the special events and all of that's totally separate from a fee schedule. By code and by this is just a fee schedule. To me, $75 an hour is cheaper than cheap. When La Roca holds a event in Layton, they're paying $400 and $500 an hour for those parks. We're charging $40. And so, it's totally comparing apples and oranges with that. So I'm okay to continue it if we want the definitions, but you're approving definitions over here. You're approving a fee schedule over here. You don't mix a definition with your fee schedule in your code. That's not, you can refer to that if you want, but you don't put it in with your fee schedule.
So I totally see what you're saying, and I appreciate that perspective, but I do agree that we need the definition, whether that's here or in our code somewhere else, because it does get really muddy.
Oh, for sure, but it's muddy now. We don't have a definition now.
Right.
So all you're doing here is giving an avenue if somebody has an event that requires a sheriff to go down to charge for that sheriff. Right now, we have no way of charging.
Sure, and it just comes out of our pockets instead of theirs.
Exactly.
Yeah,
So all
I'm
you're
with you
doing
on
is
that.
allowing the,
I'm with you
if
on
we
that.
ever, how many times have we issued a special permit in the last 2 years? Maybe one? Two. Again, it needs to be addressed. I'm not downplaying that by any means. It needs to be addressed, but can this be approved? In my opinion, yes. But because it is just what it costs, I think it's fairly cheap considering what some of the people in these professions charge per hour. So you're barely covering costs.
So just point of clarification, for any of these, we are not, or rather, are we requiring Public Works to go down to an event if there's more than 300 people? Is that a city requirement?
There's not a place in city code that requires that necessarily, no.
Okay.
But again, it's an event planning conversation and, Country Fair Days has been brought up. Public Works does attend a number of those events on site and is there to provide service during the event, whether they're seen or unseen, is maybe debatable, but they do provide service during the event. And some events will need that, right? They will need that attention. Others will not.
So maybe it would be helpful to have a copy of the application, the permit application, so we can kind of just see exactly what the process is. So we can know if I'm having a giant book fair at the park, I don't know, then I wouldn't necessarily, I know I don't even read. I can read. I don't read, but I can. But I might not need to worry about some of these fees if that's the case, right?
Correct. You can find the special events permit application on the city website under the I want to apply for special events permit.
Thank you.
And there are state requirements for, obviously, the health department and all that requires certain things over a certain size.
So
And that's
that's-
when that triggers it, so.
That's why, I mean, I get what you're saying, Blair, because I thought the same thing. Well, this is a consolidated fee schedule. My biggest issue is just that 1 to 299, because as I understand it, the health department steps in when you're over 300 or 500, I can't remember. And that's even hard because when you throw on an event, you never know. I mean, we throw on a breakfast with Santa and think 50 are coming and 450 show up. I mean, so it's kind of hard, but I guess that's where I'm confused of
So what I.
what is a special event, especially if you're under the 300, when and where would we charge that? And if it's appropriate or not is where I'm having
It'd
the
have
hang
to,
up.
it'd have to be based on the type of event. It'd have to be an event that would possibly require that. I don't know what that event is. I'm just
Okay,
saying,
yeah.
if you're gonna have to, maybe they're saying, hey, we need a public works guy here for our event. Well, how big's your event? Then they go to the fee schedule and they charge them that. If it's
Help me
under 300,
understand, like-
most things aren't gonna be over 300, like with the West End party, we maybe get 300.
But help me understand when we would need the public works or
That's what I'm
the
saying. I don't know what that scenario
That's
is.
what- that's
unless
why
they
I'm
requested it or it was an odd event.
Yeah.
So you're not even gonna charge them that if they don't need it. These aren't just gonna get charged because they have 300
But then
people
why
there.
put it in there? If there isn't going to be a situation where
Well,
under
don't-
300, you don't
know
need.
that though. What if, like I said, if they request it, you gotta have an avenue to charge it. Right now, you don't have an avenue to charge it. If most events don't do it, you probably never will, but if it's ever asked, you don't have an avenue to charge it.
But let's
If
say
it's
they
not,
do,
you can't just make up a number as a
Right,
city
I
and charge
understand
it if it's not in a fee schedule.
well, but that's what we've been doing right now.
We're not charging them right now.
We charge the one group. We
We've
don't have
charged
anything-
2 events. Yes, we've charged 2 events based on this
I don't know
schedule.
why we need a fee schedule then, I guess.
Well, but I do want some more definition in it, and like you said, it's a chicken and the egg. Because looking at like, if somebody's gonna bring, food trucks. Okay, well, if you're gonna have food trucks, then yeah, we need public works there to be constantly switching out the garbage cans and making sure that happens. I mean, if it's, if there's some type of requirement, then I think the people that are setting up for the, event would be able to estimate what they're going to be doing and be able to compare it. Because unfortunately, I think that's what's going to happen is they're going to compare here versus other parks and stuff and what they've got. And I mean, I guess the question with that then is, do we want them to be using the parks for special events or do we want it just for citizens? So if we do, then yeah, let's go on and put in these, what seems to me hefty fees. But like you said, latent charges for huge amount for a park, $400, you were saying?
It's right around there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know they're a lot more than,
Do they specify when you need to rent that out?
I only know it through La Roca because they were very shocked at our fees for our parks because it's a fraction of what they've been paying all through the Davis County. And I only know that because of family. That's the only reason I know that.
So I agree with Blair as far as the separating the two. My only concern is I don't want to approve a fee schedule without realizing what it's applied to. It's kind of like when we did the sound ordinance. We had written in there anything over 55 decibels. Well, everywhere's over 55 decibels. And so we all get concerned that a neighbor's going to complain on a neighbor. And then we realize, well, yeah, but that's not the real definition. The real definition's da, 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 da. And so then we finally said, okay, yeah, let's do it because we have the definition. If I'd done my homework and got one of these forms and saw what definitions exist or not, I may feel like, yeah, it's all covered. It all makes sense. But that's my hesitation. I just don't want to approve an amount and then find out that our little group down the street now has to do this. They didn't realize it, but because it's written a certain way, they have to do that. And we didn't intend it that way. So I think both need to be, even though we're approving this separately, we're not rewriting the guidelines. I think both need to be in front of us at some point. Otherwise, I don't know if this is gonna hurt our citizens versus help our citizens.
That's totally fair. I think it would be not that difficult for staff to put together kind of almost an FAQ, right? Of when is a special event permit needed? When do you need to apply? When can you just simply reserve the Bowery at the park? Just some guidance like that, a guidance document, 1-page explanation. We can put that together and bring that back. I don't think that'd be difficult at all.
Just to answer your question, Joel.
Yeah.
A neighboring city is 500 people, it's $300. Plus a $300 refundable deposit fee.
The per
And fees.
hour.
And fees double for non-latent residents.
Do they have anything
Now-
under,
Let's add that one. Doubled for non-South Weaver residents.
do they have
I've always
anything?
thought it should be. something
well, I
like that, 'cause
agree.
They're not paying, I mean,
They're not paying the
that's only
taxes
fair
for
to
it.
the people here.
Is there anything in there that's under 500 people?
I'm just on their Parks and Rec page, so I'm not in their fee schedule.
I guess I agree with Quinn. I'm concerned about unintended consequences that we're going to be creating here because we don't have a full picture. And I really don't want to, if we have a community, especially our residents that want to do something, I don't want to dissuade them by that with fees that they can't afford to do this thing. But we also want to make sure that garbages are being emptied and, if it's really big, that way they have the proper authorities on site.
Because
So,
we may be undercharging like you're kind of showing on there. If they have 3 food trucks and they need access to all the bathrooms and water and want to be able to use some of the sports fields, then yeah, I mean, that obviously should go up. If they're just doing a pavilion so that they can, run an event, that, 250 people maybe show up, then that wouldn't necessitate the higher amounts for having police there or any of those kind of things. So yeah, I would definitely like a definition that would just go along with it.
So here's my question to council then. Let's say someone comes in tomorrow and fills out an application for a special event. Then what would you have staff do?
Well, they've already been making it up so far.
Didn't you say you
Well-
used this on the prior two?
Yes.
Just hasn't been,
it
Right,
hasn't been in the
formalized.
fee schedule.
It
Yeah.
was a recognition that those were not in the consolidated fee schedule, and so we felt they needed to be put in the consolidated fee schedule.
And I agree with that. I
So-
do. I think that it's good to have it. I just, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I just am not sure when it would apply.
Yeah, we can make that more clear and bring that back. If somebody came in tomorrow, we would walk them through the process. The process is application and then evaluation from all of the different departments that look at the application and determine that need. Have conversation with the applicant about their event and whatnot. There's a little bit of a process there. It's not, an immediate turnaround or rubber stamp or anything like that. And then the fees are charged at the very end. And so the question of can we is that's been our practice. We realized that it wasn't in the consolidated fee schedule. We wanted to close that loop, but we would still charge that if somebody came in tomorrow. There's precedent there. That's our practice. They could potentially challenge that and say, well, you don't have this in the consolidated fee schedule. And we, again, want to close that loop. And so we want to do that quickly, but yeah, we can do that.
So if we, because hearing that, I mean, I could totally see someone saying, show me where you're going to charge me that, because it's nowhere. And then we don't have
Correct.
anything documented that's been approved by council. Could we use this as a guideline and then just continue this conversation, knowing that this is what has been evaluated by staff as how much we would need to cover the cost of fire and public works and all of that? And then have that definition so it's kind of clear when people, I mean, I was sitting here looking at the applications for special events. It's put together pretty well. It's pretty spelled out for people. If you do this, you're planning a large event. And so they would need to know. And if for anyone who's planned a large event, they know there's a cost with it. But the question is, what's that special event? So I'm with you that we would like to have a definition, but I don't want us to be stuck in a position where we don't have any, leg to stand on. if someone does come in.
From staff perspective, if I had a preference, it would be to adopt it and put it in writing in the consolidated fee schedule with the understanding that we need to provide additional clarification and have that discussion about when it's applied. And if that comes back and means we alter the wording here a little bit, then that would be easy to do as well. We could make that part of the conversation. The other option, like you said, is just continue it all and make sure you have all the information in front of you. I don't ever want you to feel like you are forced into a decision that you're uncomfortable with. We can provide more information if you want that.
So I just think the definition could define how much we're actually charging for any of these. So once we get the definition, then we may have to go back and change the consolidated fee schedule anyways. But I don't think this is a city killing bill in any way. So I think we've talked about it more than people are going to use it. So
I guess that from my standpoint, there's three options ahead of us. Accept it as is and then work on the details. Or send out the details as they exist and let everybody look at it, and then we continue it and rediscuss it in a future meeting. Or we send it to the Parks and Rec Committee and let them hash it out and then bring it back. I don't know what the council feels, but to me, that seems like our three options is everybody tries to do the homework. Only one of the committees does the homework, or we accept as is and assign the committee to make sure that it's taken care of soon. My only concern, again, has been mentioned, we just need a litmus test. It says, okay, all these events take place. You know, the train ride, we have a lot of church congregations that meet in the parks that have big groups. You know, we have all these different things that take place. Make sure that all of those would be handled the way our current guidelines or our future guidelines spell out, just so we're not surprising anybody. So if we can turn around, you know, by the first meeting of next city council meeting, I'm okay approving it now, but I'm also okay waiting and trying to do the homework so we approve it and be done in one full meeting rather than it carried on.
I would just like to add maybe a possibility to consider is if we want to have a different fee for non-residents. I think that would
Oh, yeah. I would
be
definitely-
something that we want to,
Yeah.
That's definitely a proposal.
From a timing standpoint, just the nature of getting materials prepared for meetings, it would probably be the end of October meeting rather than in 2 weeks. But if you're okay with that timeline, we can try to get that October 25th meeting.
I mean, where it's printed and published, if somebody does come in, you can say, well, this is the schedule that's in work right now. So we kind of are covered if somebody comes in the interim.
also just a note for your information. I didn't see anywhere on the application that other fees could be applied outside of renting the Bowery.
Okay.
So that may be, I mean, especially where we don't have a fee schedule and we don't have that in the application fee, I can understand that people are like, where the crap are you pulling these numbers out that we have to pay you? So that might be something that we want to include in the application. If it is there, it may be, I just didn't see it.
As part of the evaluation, we can look at the form and make sure that it all lines up and is smooth as one process.
Have a motion then, someone,
I know what we're doing.
So I'll move that we continue this resolution and ask that the staff send out the proposed definitions and or existing definitions that we have relative to that. And we then, as a council, revisit it in a future meeting with the proposal that we add a double fee for anyone outside of South Weaver residency.
Do we need to add a date for that? For continuation,
Well,
right?
You
October-
said future meeting, but if you wanted to.
Future
date
meeting in
certain, you
October.
can. Okay.
motion. Need a second.
I'll second that.
All votes are in.
Yes, aye.
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 I,
Okay. Yeah. item is, new business. Does anyone have any new business that they would like to bring up tonight?
I'd just like to, Mr. Osborne brought up a good point with the flyer that went out, and it would probably be good for residents to understand the cost impact. If that's a lot more, or if it's not much more, because that was the same thing. My wife saw it and was like, whoa, we've upgraded, and with budgets and everything, that we've been talking out around for so long, it'd just be good to understand what is the financial hit. Is it a lot more? Is it a little more? Can we help the residents feel good about this? I mean, it's great publication, very excited and whatnot, but again, a lot of people have asked about how much are we paying for that, and I don't have an answer.
So there has been a shift in the communication model, right? It's first and foremost is rather than have a monthly newsletter that goes out, it became a quarterly newsletter. This was part of the budget conversation when council put money toward communications. I'd have to remind myself what that line item looks like. I don't have it off the top of my head, but there was a decision made to enhance the newsletter. And instead of going out through utility bills, which not everybody gets a paper utility bill, a mailed utility bill. Some, just pay online, get it digital that way. And so we do have methods for having digital newsletters on the city website and the email list and whatnot. But the decision was to do this quarterly newsletter as an every door direct mailer, so that it would go to every mailbox in the city, whether you're a utility account holder or just a rental or anything like that. So there's a model of communication change that this signifies. And it would go out, the next one would be January. So January, April, every 3 months that way. So that's the major change. As far as the cost, Shaylee or Trevor would have to express the exact cost there, but I know that it was mailed out 3,200, approximately 3,200 accounts, less than 3,000. I'd have to look at that. I was not involved in the specifics of that, but there are approximately 2,200 utility accounts, and this again went to, I think, 29 or 3,000 approximately addresses. So again, different model of communication to try to make it, yes, a little bit higher quality. Clearly, the paper's different and whatnot. Some of that was because it was quarterly instead of monthly. The other is that it's an every door direct mail instead of through the utility account, so that everybody would receive it. But those were the main thoughts. Again, from a budget, I'd have to look at the line item to remind myself, but that was a budgeted item.
So just to follow up on that. So not everybody gets a utility bill in our
Paperless
Only
billing.
utility account.
paper. Oh,
Yeah, only the utility account. So if you,
Well, and then half of those, because some of them are paperless. So-
yeah, they just get an email that says it's time to pay your bill. They don't get a newsletter.
So I've
mailed
never
out.
gotten a newsletter since we went paperless years ago.
That's why she doesn't know what's going on ever.
So clueless.
And we did talk about this in PR before we went on it, and I don't remember the numbers either, but when you took away the monthly newsletter and this mailing of it and exchanged it, I feel like it was pretty close to what we were already paying. It wasn't, I don't feel like it was even an increase or a minimal increase. So we felt it was a better way to communicate with everyone in the city on a little bit better platform for the same amount of money. Is why I feel like it was kind of close to that.
Think you'd be able to send it out more and, quarterly.
For new business, yeah. Last time we had the Davis County Sheriff Department come in and give us the report. We actually did have the sheriff himself here. And I know that he had a good discussion outside with some of the citizens. And it does appear that there has been a extra push put on towards speeding, and there has definitely been a push towards having those officers out on the road looking and writing for tickets. So I just wanted to say I appreciate that. I've had a lot of people tell me that they're seeing them here in the city and the neighborhoods. Well, I think it was the next day, 475 had one down there just, watching and keeping everything going straight. So, I mean, I appreciate that. I did want to bring up.
Yeah, I got 2 tickets. No, I'm just kidding.
Is that why they moved the speed sign?
Right in front of my house.
Well, you have the speed sign and an officer in front of your house, so they're
Yeah,
really
they
watching you
all
close.
All day they sat there. Yeah, Dave took care of the speed sign, sorry.
No, and that,
Yeah, Dave did a good job. They moved it down and it's helped drastically.
yeah. So hopefully that'll move to other streets, other neighborhoods and everything. But yeah, I also did want to bring up, just kind of on a city personal note, if you will. We saw the beginning of the demolition of Ray's. I think it's great that we've got progress coming on, but yeah, that one's tough to see go down. 25, 26 years ago when we moved here, that was one of the things that we loved about this little town, just being able to go to this little town store and get all kinds of, and I just wanted to thank the Rays for giving us that little bit. And it breaks my heart that it's going to be gone. And at the same time, I do know we needed to get that going. The last one is a question. So we're still getting a ton of dust, as we all know, and the water shuts off. Yeah, or
Friday.
also down at that end, I guess they said it was the 26th or 27th. Yeah. Is the pits also going to have their water shut off, and then?
Their secondary goes off on Friday night.
So do they have any plan for putting any of well water or any of that kind of stuff down?
Well, I think they're.
Yeah.
That's what they've done in years past. They then pull their well water for it. There's less well water to pull from, just with everything else down. So
Yeah.
they will still do it, but it'll probably be at a reduced rate.
And the sodium chloride, are they still doing that?
Yeah, they're still putting the stuff on the roads and everything. That doesn't change. Just the secondary,
Oh, thank you.
the secondary water though gets shut off for them just like it does for us.
Yeah, that's it for new business.
Anyone else with new business?
I just had one quick question. What our contract or our maintenance agreement with the people doing the streetlights, is that something they do as a preventative maintenance or is it as needed? I have a couple emails I need to forward along. I just didn't know if they're going around and looking at those or how they deal with that.
So they are the response team,
They're just
Right.
reactionary.
but they also can do other types of maintenance if we request them
Okay.
to.
I just didn't know or I couldn't remember what the agreement was. So then I'll get you a list of those lights.
You can forward those on, or on the city website, there's an email for them as well to just
Oh,
send it directly
that's
to
right,
their
there is.
ticket.
I remember that. Okay.
But do they charge us per hour every time we ask them to go check things? I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah,
obviously when there's reactionary, that's needed, but if we say, yeah, we want you to,
Yeah, they would,
Check,
they
they'll-
would charge.
yeah.
I just didn't know if it
We
was
do-
included in their contract.
We do have a software system essentially for those that are city owned that are new with as we were changing them over, where from a desktop, you can see when they're on, when they're off, the schedule, how much power they're drawing, all kinds of things. And they have access to that, so they can look at those lights live and see that. So it doesn't always require a site visit.
Okay, council report, your committees, anyone, anything to report on your committee?
Parks and Rec, we would love it if everybody would still continue to fill out the surveys. We've got a lot of them that have gone on that first push. Please, if you haven't yet, please do so and give us your opinions on it. This is one of the ways we're looking at being able to expand services and hopefully cut some costs. So, and Many people have seen and have questions about the dirt bike track that we have down there at Canyon Meadows. We've met with some more of the volunteers and getting everything put together. You'll see a lot of that being finalized here in the next month. So just anything that you can do to support if you have some time. I know that they're definitely looking for equipment operators and a few other things to get things moving. So that's it.
We had our PR meeting yesterday where we discussed some upcoming city events and just things that we want to do better on community outreach, community events, and putting those together. That was really our main focus. Had a lot of great discussions and looking forward to what may come from that. So.
The only additional comment on the gravel pits and the dust is what we already know. In our last rainy weeks, couple of weeks, the amounts were very low. I'll send out an update on that, and that's 90+% of their mitigation effort is water. So we've asked them to come up with alternative mitigation methods if we have a drought that's going to continue. They've been thinking about it, but haven't really come forward with any substantive ideas. But when we have rain, the amounts are quite low.
Thank you, Mayor. We, as everyone saw, we sworn our new YCC members, so we look forward to a full year of fun events. And we will be having a Halloween event with the recreation, so more information on that is forthcoming. And Municipal Utilities, we have heard back on our boring. Boring.
Or geotech.
Geotech, thank you. I mean, I guess it was kind of boring, but heard back on our geotech, and we are now waiting to get, now that they have that, they can get us more accurate information as far as cost for our building. So we're waiting to hear back on that, and we'll report as soon as we have that information. That's it.
Two things, Planning Commission, the only main item to report there is they are discussing the R7 zone amendments. So I would encourage each council member to go either watch and then read, because there are some changes being made, and I have a feeling that it's going to come with recommendations and not a final decision to the council. That's kind of how it was discussed, and then we can decide. So we'll need to spend some time looking at it, because I think there's some repercussions on both sides of it, and we can talk more about that offline. So, and the other option for public safety, we talked about the speed signs, but Dave's also having a meeting with, and I can't remember what you called your meeting for the hazard mitigation plan. Key role.
A stakeholders meeting.
Stakeholders meeting for all of the parties involved, whether they're in the city, water, whatever they are. So that's on the 29th, or is it next month?
No, that's coming up. So we held one stakeholder meeting already previously. This is for other entities that are either neighboring jurisdictions, whether they're federal or state or local, water districts and others, anybody that might be affected there. There's a long list of those that we identified as potential stakeholders, and had great turnout at the first one. We now, at this stage of the plan, need to update them on what has taken place so far and get any feedback. So yeah, that's coming up.
That's it.
One item from Wasatch Integrated, come up here, the director up there asked.
That, thank you. Oh, it was off. The director up here at the landfill asked that we put out, and we're going to put it in our newsletter, but it would be good for the people to know now, is South Weaver's a little unique because we're an Ogden mailing address, so our zip code being 84405, and a lot of people's driver's license, including mine, says Ogden, Utah instead of South Weaver. And so you approach up there and you have to show proof of residency. He's asked that if your license does not say South Weaver, that you bring a copy of your utility bill or something else with you so that you can show them. Otherwise, they have to charge you a fee for not being in the
Clint, I was about to
county.
do the same thing. I don't even know, I've never looked at mine to see what it says.
Oh, it's got it. It's very fine. Mine says South Beaver.
Yeah,
But I had some neighbors who took up some stuff and they got charged
yeah,
double. They just thought the price has gone up.
yeah. So anyway,
I know I'm resident.
it has it. So we'll put that out so that everyone's aware, but he asked that we kind of spread the word on that. Another item that I found very interesting, Ogden City, their mayor, our last meeting, said that they've been doing a reclamation program on the Ogden River. That I think they've been at it for several years. And it starts at Washington Boulevard and it goes for a little over a mile. I think he said like 1.1 or 1.2 miles. And they just finished that. And the federal government, the EPA, came out and gave them a recognition, cleaned this up, and they've changed it, made the, excuse me, Ogden River into a blue ribbon fish, whatever, fishing area there. And anyway, got recognized for that. But what I found interesting was he says in that little over a mile, he says they pulled out 9 cars that had been abandoned down in the river for probably years. And they pulled out 2,600 tires. And most of them had rims attached to the tires in their clean out. And then they had, I think he says, like 19 tons of other garbage that they cleaned out and hauled away in that mile stretch. So I thought that was,
We pulled out
Pretty
a
interesting.
lazy boy and a couch out of the river right here at the mouth of the canyon last week.
did you? Yeah,
I mean, just right in the middle of the river,
and then,
and I put it in Angie's front yard.
Come on over.
It's in her house now.
Well,
Okay.
hopefully no barrels with
Staff,
bodies.
do you have some,
Yeah, just one update. The mayor's not going to tune his own horn on this, so I intend to. And that is a project update for the city hall kind of upgrades. We have done some initial scoping based on the concept that that we've all looked at, and got a contractor to come in and kind of walk through the building and help us identify some of the specific things that would need to be done if we were to follow through with that concept that was created. And the mayor has said he's willing to act as the GC for the project and be the one to coordinate the subcontractors that the council would end up approving. We would go out to bid on each of the individual items rather than as one big project, and still go through the public process of bidding that way once we've finalized the specific scoping, and then we can publish that. But then rather than pay to have kind of the overhead of a GC, the mayor has said that he'd be willing to act like that in his role as mayor on behalf of the city to help us save money on that. So you will see here soon, once again we finalize the actual bid document, that published for the individual pieces of work that would need to be done in here, right? Painting and prep, flooring, electrical, those types of things would come as individual bid items that we'd have to select individually. But if we do all that in a similar time frame, then the mayor could then coordinate the timing of those and hopefully save us some money. So that's where we're at on the project here for City Hall.
Thank you, Mayor.
I think that would save us quite a bit of money if we do that. So more than willing to do that.
How many years is it gonna take?
Ask
How
the
long
GC.
how many years will it take?
That's up to
We
our,
need to make
that's
sure.
up to our general contractor.
I know, we need to make sure our general contractor's here with us through it all.
On time and under budget, right? Let's make this happen.
No one that builds homes faster than that. It won't take long.
Great, thank you.
It'll be great.
It will be great.
Shaylee, do you want to address the library issue?
I was wondering what they wanted. I saw that they want my feedback, but I don't know what to. The library, there's a little sign that says, we want your feedback.
Yeah. the
All they ever
library-
ask me
the
for is
library's
my
doing
money.
a countywide survey, so they've given material to all of the cities to help promote that. And so we're part of publishing that and helping promote for resident feedback on the library system here in Davis County. So you'll see a couple of yard signs that they gave us that we'll put up in public places, as well as here at City Hall, there's information, and we'll make sure that it's published digitally as well. But it's just a resident survey throughout the entire county on the library.
Can we make a
Sorry,
suggestion
Shaylee,
that
I
they
spoke.
move one into the city? Just saying, if there's room for it.
What's that?
I was just wondering if there was a place that we could suggest on that survey to bring one here into the city.
I think that there would most likely be a comment section. I haven't looked at it yet myself, but make sure that that's part of the comments.
I know there
That's
used
what you
to
want.
actually be plans for one in the city, wasn't there? Like, many years ago?
There's been a lot of
We
discussion
brought
about it.
that, I brought that up in a couple of our meetings and pretty much was told, no, you won't see a library in South Weber.
That's what they always tell us.
They said that they're, kind of regionally locating them, and they said, because though we're not in their county, we've got the one just above Toll Road in Weber County, and so that would serve as a.
Do you know how much I pay to that library? Because I'm always late on everything.
Maybe we do need a library.
Maybe we can afford one.
Yeah,
It does cost you $1.
I know. It's so that expounds my expenses. Black library.
Okay. Anything else? If not, let's look for a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion.
Mayor,
to
hold
adjourn.
on, wait, no,
There's a
No.
closed session that is on the agenda, but we do not need to
I
have
didn't think so.
that closed.
Are we still
Closed
or
session.
not?
Yeah, so quick update. Again, not any closed session material, but the update is that the meeting that was going to be held was not held. It's still pending.
Wondering why everybody's leaving.
Hey, you kept that quick update to under 10 seconds. I'm really impressed.
I'm getting better.
You're getting better.
Mayor, make a motion, we adjourn.
Okay, second.
Second.